Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the first opposition review show of the brand new season. Everton kick off the campaign at Goodison on Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock kick-off against Fulham. Of course, a former manager in Marco Silva coming back to Goodison yet again. Home game to start the season, which for us is probably something we need because we need every bit of help we can get at the moment. And of course, Fulham in their second season in the Premier League after coming back up at the start of last year. Yeah, an interesting opening game and lots to discuss and lots to find out from respective counterparts. So in this case, my counterpart is Don Betts from the Fulham-ish pod, isn't it?
Yes, correct, mate.
Yeah. So obviously, like I said, going into your second season back in the Premier League, and yeah, obviously a lot of people were impressed by how you guys got on last year. It was an impressive first season back in the top flight for you. Finished 10th. It was, one of your best finishes since I think Hodgson was here, was it? Oh, I think he's
Yeah, I think we were only like 1 or 2 points off our records points total was when we finished seventh under Roy Hodgson, which was the season before. Obviously, we got to the Europa League final the next year. So, yeah, it's the first time we've probably been competitive in the Premier League in about a decade or so, really, because, the previous campaigns, twice we went straight back down. So it was a breath of fresh air to have a good start to the season, not be playing catch up. And then, yeah, it said that at one point when I think we beat Brighton away at the end of February, we were sort of challenging for the European places. Obviously, it petered out towards the end of the season, but we still managed to finish in the top half. So, I mean, yeah, that was sort of better than any Fulham fans could really be expecting going into the start of last season. And obviously, this season's hopefully a season. Obviously, there's been a bit sort of speculation in regard to Saudi Arabia and our manager and a few players, but that seems to have died down now. So, I think now is just really sort of building on that and sort of becoming a solid Premier League team like we were for the 13 years you're in the Premier League, sort of when we got promoted in 2001. You're looking at like your Brightons, you're looking at Crystal Palace, even just consolidating yourselves as sort of a Premier League outfit and not be worrying about trying to battle and trying to finish 16th, 17th every season, and maybe consolidate yourselves as finishing in that sort of the upper echelons of the mid table.
yeah. What went so right last season? What do you think helped you have such a good season?
Well, obviously, we did so well in the championship under Marco Silva scoring, untold amount of goals. I think we won like 3 games 7-0, had like 2 6-2s, won a game 5-1. But then I think it was adapting our play style to the Premier League. I think, we were always on the attack in the championship. We got up and then Marco Silva changed it slightly, playing more of a deeper line. And I think, if you look at the manager we've had when we've been promoted previously to the Premier League in Slavisa Jokanovic and Scott Parker, I just think having a manager who's had that Premier League experience like yourselves and Watford and just a more experienced manager helped. And I think he's really bought into the club. The club have bought into what he wants to do, playing a system that sort of suited the players we had. We sort of had a solid base of players and then we sort of brought in a few players around that, where in previous seasons we've tried to change the whole sort of setup. I know it's kind of different when you're a playoff winning team than when you're a team who sort of wins the league. But I think sort of just sticking with a lot of the players who got us promoted, the likes of Ream, Adarabioyo, Anthony Rompson, Harrison Reed, and you got Mitrovic, I think it was sort of having that core and then building around that, and then also building a system that just suits Alexander Mitrovic, because Fulham fans know what a goal scorer he can be if you build a team around him. I feel like often under Scott Parker, maybe he was scoring goals in spite of what Scott Parker was doing tactically, as opposed to Marco Silva, whose system is solely built around, the striker up top and getting to score goals. I think he ended up getting 14 Premier League goals next season. And if he could actually put away some of his penalties, that would have been, 16, 17. So I think it was just everything being sort of a cohesive unit, which hasn't been in recent years. There's been managers falling out with the directors of football and the recruitment team, and I thought everyone sort of we came up together and everyone stuck together. And I think one of the main things really is actually just having a good start to the season, because if you get results in the first sort of 6-7 weeks of the season, it gives you something to fall back on for the rest of it. Whereas in previous seasons, we've been playing catch up from sort of week 3, week 4, being in a relegation zone and trying to get out of it. Whereas I think the lowest we probably ever ended up in the table last season was no more than sort of maybe 13th or 14th, really, or even I don't even know if we even finished that low. We were sort of always sort of in the top half just because we had a good start to the season, and I think that's so key. And I think that's maybe some issues Everton have had in the last couple of seasons, that you have that poor start to the season, and then for the rest of the season, the confidence is low. You're playing catch up. Whereas if you have that solid start to the season and get a few wins in your first 6, 7 games, 5 games, then it really gives you something to build on. And we sort of never we never really got battered by anyone last season. I think we only lost a game by more than 2 goals, maybe at most 3, 4 times. Um, and I think that's key. We were always in games, and I think that's the most key thing. But I said I think that start to the last season just gave us something to build on, and hopefully we can get off to a similar start this season.
Yeah, I mean, season start, like you mentioned earlier on in the show, that it's been disrupted a little bit for you this year by the whole Mitrovic saga. He's been on and off whether he's staying or going. Um, Apparently links to Saudi Arabia as well for the manager Marco Silva and Willian as well. So there's like a few different. I think the Saudi thing's kind of blown everything up in the air for a lot of teams. But what's the situation with Mitrovic at the moment?
So it seems that everyone's staying put at the moment. Both Willian and Mitrovic played a part in the last preseason friendly we had last weekend against Hoffenheim. Willian started the game, and then Mitrovic came on in the second half. And I mean, when Mitrovic came on, it seemed like everything was just water under the bridge, really. Like he was back to his normal self, sort of wrestling with players at set pieces. I think before we got the winning goal, from Calvin Bassey, one of our new signings, there was Mitrovic was literally wrestled one Hoffenheim player to the floor. So it didn't seem like he wasn't interested. And I think when it comes to Fulham fans, there'll be some Fulham fans who will be disappointed with the way things sort of have panned out this summer with Mitrovic. But to be honest, from my standpoint, he himself has never come out and said anything. He has never, handed in a transfer request or anything like that. There was rumours that he's refusing to play, but if he's played the last preseason friendly, and Marco Silva said in his post-match press conference that he expects both players to stay at the club. There was an article in the Athletic this week from Simon Johnson saying Willian's staying put. So I think we've finally be able to put all that Saudi Arabia stuff to bed. I think Al Hilal, who the team was after Mitchell, looked at other targets. They were linked with Mbappe, they've linked with Victor Osimhen. I'm not saying they're going to get these players, but Fulham were quite sticking by their £50 million, what they wanted from him if he was going to go, and it never seemed to happen. So I think it's all water under the bridge, really. Marco Silva, again, he denied a contract of like £40 million over 2 years. So I think it's been disruptive, but I think now we're getting to the point where the scene's on the horizon. Everyone seems to be getting back to normal. We've signed a couple of players. We're linked with a few others. So it seems, from what everyone is saying in regard to Marcus Silva's interviews and what's been reported in the media for articles such as like the Athletic. So it seems everyone's staying put. So everyone's hoping that's sort of done and dusted now, and we can get off to a good start to the season. And I think if Fulham were to get 3 points, or even get a point at Goodison Park on Saturday, I think everyone will sort of look at it as it's done and dusted now, and we can push on.
Who have you brought in then this summer? Obviously, you've mentioned Calvin Bassey. He's a left back, is he, or a centre back?
Yeah, he's in pre-season he's played centre back so far, but obviously at Rangers he did play left back and left wing back as well. We brought him in. We brought in Raul Jimenez for depth up front for only £5.5 million, and we re-signed William, but it's not necessarily a new signing. Obviously, he was part of our team last season, and then we were linked with other players such as Damari Gray, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Fred for Man United. But yeah, those two are the only new players in so far. But to be honest, I think that when you look at Fulham, I think the starting 11's fine. I think the starting 11 is more than good enough to stay up, especially when you look at some of the states some clubs are in. If you look at
Look at
Sheffield
ourselves.
United, yeah, look at Luton. I'm looking at Wolves, yourselves, as you mentioned as well. So I think our starting 11 is probably fine, but it's just there isn't that squad depth, and I think that's what we need to bring in. But I said going into the start of the season, it's just the two new signs of Jimenez and Bassey, who both started the last two pre-season friendly. So they're definitely players that Marco Silva wanted to bring to the club. And from what I've seen so far, they both got on a score sheet against Hoffenheim last weekend. So hopefully it's the start of things to come.
Yeah, like you said, Damari Gray's been linked from ourselves to sign for us. Um, is there any sort of traction behind that? There's been rumours about us like looking to sell him. There's been rumours about him potentially wanting to push for the move as well as he. Is there any sort of concrete interest from your end?
I think there is concrete interest. I think what's interesting is we've been linked with both Demarai Gray and Callum Hudson-Odoi, two players who predominantly been playing on the left wing, and then that's where they obviously fit in at Fulham. And I've always been of the opinion that I'd be looking to try and bring two wide players this summer, just because Manor Solomon was only on loan. Now he's gone to Spurs. Niskins Cabano was didn't sign a new contract. Dan James obviously gone back to Leeds, so it's definitely an area we need to improve in. But I haven't seen anything in regard to the Demarai Gray deal in at least a week now. So I think the concrete interest is there. Apparently, Demarai Gray wants to move in regard to like the personal terms. I don't. There's no issues with that. It's just agreeing the fee with Everton. I think Everton, from what I last read, aren't going to sell Demarai Gray until Everton know they've got a replacement coming in, which makes more than sense. You're not going to sell a player to potentially a team you're playing on the opening game of the
You
season
you'll be surprised
before getting someone in.
what silly moves Everton can make sometimes, honestly, mate. But I think that's the one thing. I think even if there isn't any replacement lined up, I think they'll probably hold him out. If he does go, it'll be after we've played you for that reason. Um,
Yeah, I said if it was the other way around, I wouldn't want to selling. Let's say you interested in Mitrovic or Andreas Pereira, for example. I wouldn't want to selling them to Everton right before we're about to play them on the opening day, especially as you guys are at home and it's any team who's not a top a Europe chasing team at home, you're always looking to get the 3 points. So I think the team we've got is fine. As I said, with no injuries, but as soon as you get injuries, you can really see the weaknesses in our team. But I said it's an interesting game, obviously, because we played each other so soon towards the end of last season at Goodison Park as well, where Fulham got the 3-1 victory, and it was probably one of Everton's worst performances of the season, to put it frank. But yeah, I think with Demarai Gray, the interest is clear there. I think it's definitely a player Silva wants. It seems to be a move that Demarai Gray wants, but I think it's definitely a thing from Everton's standpoint that they're not going to sell him to us before we play you guys, and they're definitely waiting to get a replacement in before he moves towards the exit door potentially.
yeah, so I think that's definitely where we're at with that. I mean, personally, I wouldn't mind. He's a decent enough player, but if we could turn a profit on him, I think it'd do our sort of financial side of things a lot of benefit. So I think that's probably where we're at the moment. We are looking to turn over a bit of cash at the moment more than anything else. I think we are in a bit of bother still financially until the takeover's done. So it's it'll probably work out for both parties, to be honest. From what you're saying, if you're looking to bring in an inverted winger, he'd probably be a good fit for you.
Yeah, I said it's definitely a position where I think we need to improve on. I said if you look at our wide options, you've got Willian, you've got Harry Wilson, Bobby Decordova Reed, and that's pretty much it. So it's definitely an area we need to strengthen in, especially if we want to push on this season or we want to consolidate to where we were last season. I think squad depth is definitely something. Then he's into Demarai Gray. I'd take it. I think we like if we want, and I think Marcus Silva's always sort of looked at having cut runs as well with us. So I think it's something important that we want to push on. When we got to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup last season, and I think you still need squad depth for that. But yeah, I said I'd take it. But as we mentioned, it's not something that's going to happen before the game on Saturday. And I think it's going to be a very interesting game because yes, obviously it's a game that Everton need to win. I'd say. I know it's not only first game of the season, but if you were playing Fulham at home, let's say in February, you'd probably say it's a sort of must-win game kind of thing. So, and I think what's going to be interesting to see if let's say Fulham were to get an early goal, I think that's what Marcus Silva would try and push for because he knows what happens if let's say if Fulham go 1-0 up in the first 20 minutes at Goodison Park. He knows what the atmosphere is going to be like, but. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game to see what the atmosphere is sort of like from both teams. What Everton fans' reaction has
I
been,
think
what the
what you
summer's
will
been like at
find
Goodison.
though, I think what you will find though is that the fans are a bit more determined at the moment. So I don't think that the tide won't turn as much as you think it will. I think if we win a goal down, because I think there's a sort of a bit more of a positive vibe around the fan base at the moment. There's a bit more sort of there seems to be I think there's quite a big thing on trying to not turn on the players in the wake of what happened with with Dele Alli and what he's done what he's come out with over the summer, and the fans are trying really hard to sort of back the players even in the sort of negative moments. So I don't think the tide will turn too much if we go down, even if we don't win the game. I don't think it'll be too toxic just now. I think it might be a different story in a month's time if the window's shut and we haven't signed any players and the board's situation still hasn't changed. Then I think you might get elements of that. But I think for now we'll probably just try and be as positive as possible with regard to the players who are out there on the pitch.
Yeah, it's always like that. The first game of the season, I think people are too concerned about, especially as you said with the overlap interview that Dele Alli did. And I think when I'm looking at this fixture, I think I'm not it's a good game for us to have. I think I'd have this if we can get a point, then great going into a derby against Brentford the next weekend as well. And it would just be good. It's just good to have the football back really. And I think Fulham fans will be confident, mainly for the fact of obviously how soon as I mentioned, the Goodison Park game was from last season. Obviously, it'll be quite a different team because we had Dan James down the middle that day. Obviously, he's back at Leeds now. Obviously, and when we're talking about fan reaction, I think it's going to be interesting to see what Fulham fans' reaction are, because obviously there was the friendly last week, but who not everyone turns up to the friendlies. Who's going to go week in, week out? What the reaction is to players like Mitrovic and Willian with the links to Saudi Arabia? Because it was a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, most people would still be behind Mitrovic just simply for what he's done for the club, and if he goes and ends up scoring on Saturday, I don't think many Fulham fans are going to really remember all the links to Saudi Arabia. So I think it's going to be interesting to see from our end as well what the reaction is like, and yeah, it's just I think from our end, it's just I hope we don't have a bit of second season syndrome. If we look at what our rivals Brentford have done, they've had two solid seasons in the Premier League. Pushing, and then they pushed even further on last season when they finished. I think was it eighth or ninth. So I think for us, it's hopefully this is a Fulham team we can get behind, and it's the continuation of a project, and not we did really well and finishing 10th and that's it. I think Fulham fans are looking at it. We want this as something to build on, but again, still coming from my perspective anyway, this season is still about survival. Like you get to the 40-point mark. I think we got to 40 point mark last season in like sort of February, March time. But then you get to that point, then you build on from there. And I think that's what Fulham fans will be looking at this season. But I said I think it's going to be very interesting to see because I think, but I think both Fulham and Everton are two teams you could finish anywhere from 17th to 9th. Like it could really be anywhere in those places that either
I'll
team
tell
could
you
finish. I
straight.
think.
I'll tell you straight out the blocks. We're not finishing ninth this season. We are not finishing ninth. Yeah, I think if we finish anywhere higher than like 16, they'll be relieved. To be honest. Yeah, but I think in terms of your team, I think would you still call Mitrovic your main like sort of danger man, your main threat?
I think whoever plays up front is going to be a threat for us, whether it's Jimenez or Mitrovic. I'd expect it to be Jimenez just because he sort of he played on Saturday against Hoffenheim, so he's the most match fit striker. But yeah, I said whoever's up front because that's the way the Fulham system works. With it's always that key sort of hold up type striker up top. So I think whoever's going to be there is danger man. But I think the player that is Andreas Pereira actually is a player that I don't know. Maybe if you play fantasy football, you may look out for him because he was a bargain last season with him taking all our set pieces as well. But I think he's a danger man as well. You obviously be playing in the number 10 sort of position behind the main striker with the two wide men, which is most likely going to be Willian and Harry Wilson. But I think Andreas Pereira is the player to look out for, just because everything's sort of going to go through him. Whether it's taking set pieces, whether it's playing the balls out wide, whether it's working with the striker. So I think he's the key player to look out for. And I would never say a centre back's a player to look out for, but just by watching the friendly last week, Calvin Bassey was probably our best player in the game, despite playing centre half, but he did get the winning goal. So I think from set pieces this season, I do think Fulham are going to be a worry for some teams, just with the height and physicality you've got in the team. If Mitrovic is playing, you've got him, you've got Bassey. If Ream's playing, you've got him, you've got Tosin Adarabioyo, you've got João Palhinha when he's fit. So I think Andreas Pereira, just for his link-up play within the team, and as well as his sort of dangerous balls he can put in from set pieces.
In terms of like you say, who's fit and who's not, who would you say will be a likely lineup for the opening game? Then what's the team do you reckon
So,
he'll put out?
so I think it will be quite similar actually to what we fielded against Hoffenheim last Saturday in the last friendly. I burnt Leno in goal, and then looking at a back four probably of Kenny Tete, Issa Diop, Calvin Bassey, and Anthony Robinson as your back four. And he might bring Tim Ream in, but I think he's liked what he's seen from Bassey, so I think he'll continue with him as the left centre back. Then the midfield three, I don't believe João Palhinha is going to be ready to play yet because he dislocated his shoulder in pre-season. So that could be anywhere from he could be back this month or he could be back after international break. We don't really know. So I would imagine Lukic and Reed at the base in midfield with Andreas Pereira just in front of him. And then I'd imagine Jimenez, then Willian and Wilson flanking either side of him. But it wouldn't surprise me if Mitrovic plays, but just because Jimenez started last week and what's gone on with Mitrovic this summer, I can imagine
Keep him
it's
off
going
the
to be
firing line, do you reckon?
yeah, I imagine it'll be Jimenez because even when Mitrovic came back from his suspension, he didn't start the first game back. He came off the bench. So, yeah, I imagine it'll be the same, pretty much the same lineup that started last week. So, yeah, Leno, Tete, Diop, Bassi, Robinson, Reed, Lukic, Pereira, and then Wilson, Willian, and Jimenez up top.
Yeah, I mean, I think is have got a much better side that's coming out than whatever we've got. Because we talk about our danger man really, he's injured. Dwight McNeil, he's injured. So it will probably be. I think Danjuma, one of our few signings, is also injured. So we're going to have a very slapdash type team out there. It could be a case that Tamari Gray plays against Fulham rather than the other way around. Because he's one of the few wingers that we've got fit at this stage. Tarkowski got a knock, but he's apparently fit. He'll probably play in defence. Jared Branthwaite's just come back from the loan from PSV's. Looks a decent player, but I'm hoping for our sake that he gets the nod over Michael Keane because whoever you have up front, no matter who it is, he'll tear Michael Keane a new one. He's a really poor defender. And a lot of strikers on the opposition teams have targeted him last season, and that's kind of when he dropped out of the team was when we kind of rallied and managed to get ourselves over the line last year. So I'll be surprised if he starts. I'll be disappointed if he did. It'll be Jared Brantwaite playing centre back next to Tarkowski, I'm presuming. Patterson right back, Mikalenko left back. I think it'll probably be a midfield three of Anon, Idrissa Gueye, and Abdoulaye Doucouré because we haven't really got anybody else. And Gray will probably play on one side, and Calvert Lewin is fit, so he'll probably play because the new signing we've got coming in, I don't think he'll be here in time, so most likely it won't be him either. And I'll be quite honest with you, I'm not too sure what else we've got going for it. It'll have to be Alex Iwobi as one of the wide men because we haven't, like I say, our other wingers are injured, so we're really down to the bare bones, even at this early stage, as you can tell. So, um, yeah, you should be going into that game regardless of the fact that you're the away side. You should be going into it with a fair deal of confidence, given how stretched we already are, and the season hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, I think I said I think Fulham fans are going to be are confident going not maybe not confident we're going to get the 3 points, but confident I don't think we're going to lose going to Goodison Park, which is not something I'd ever say going to Goodison Park because before last season and the win in lockdown, our record there was absolutely terrible. It was going to Merseyside was sort of usually just a guaranteed 0 points, but in recent seasons we picked up performances there. There was, as I said, the one in lockdown when Josh Madger got the 2 goals, and then last season with the 3-1 victory. So I think Fulham fans are going here with confident. Because the mood in Fulham this sort of pre-season's been a bit down with the Saudi Arabian stuff, but I think that's sort of dying down now. And we're getting linked with players who could be coming in to improve the squad. So I think, and if Fulham were to get a result, even if it's only a draw, I think that'd be a really good start to the season for us. And for I think it's 1,800 fans that are going up on Saturday, maybe in one of them. I think we're looking forward to it. It's not because we usually get a very, very tough start to the season. I think in our last two Premier League seasons, I think we've had Liverpool and Arsenal. So it's nice to go into a game that we can potentially win. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think, yeah, it'll be really good to get our season off and running straight away. And then we can really build because I don't want to be going into that Brentford game with a loss. That would, especially with our record against Brentford. I know we beat them at home last season, but that's pretty much our only win against them in the league that we've had, especially at home at Craven Cottage. So, yeah, I think Fulham fans are optimistic going into this, and I think the Fulham team will be, as you mentioned, with the sort of depleted Everton squad at the moment. So, yeah, hopefully Fulham can go there, get a point, or even better, get 3.
With that in mind, what is your score prediction?
So I'm going up there optimistic, but I don't think we'll get the 3 points. I think it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. Um,
But
yeah, I'm still not entirely confident in our defense. Um, if you've got Alex Iwobi down the right hand side, I think you could give Anthony Rompson a few problems because I don't think Anthony Rompson, as much as he's great at delivering a ball into the box, I don't think defensively he's quite as good as some people make him out to be. So yeah, I think we can win the game, but I just personally don't think we will. So yeah, I'm gonna go for a 2-2 draw.
yeah, I was going to go for a 1-1 draw. Um, I think you say your defense. You say your defense isn't great, but our attack isn't great, so we won't get many. We've got a decent enough defense. I think that's the only thing that will hold us out. I think. So I just think it'll be a less entertaining and a lower scoring game than you think. Same result.
Yeah, I said I think a draw, and I think to be honest, I think both teams would probably take a draw. Go to be honest, because I think as I think opening games, as long as you don't lose, I've always felt that
It's always a good
you just yeah, you always get as long as you get something on the board, and then you can build on from there.
thing for
But yeah, I said
start. Yeah,
yeah, I think it's gonna be an interesting game because I think but I think both teams, as we mentioned, are going to want to get something on the board. I don't know if that means if it's going to be a cagey game, but Fulham don't really tend to do that. We score a lot of goals and we concede a lot of goals. That's sort of how we played under Marco Silva. So that's why I've gone for the 2-2. But yeah, I'm looking forward to heading up to Goodison Park on Saturday and getting the Premier League football back on the running.
yeah. Finally, yeah, we always end on a random, completely irrelevant question to football. What, in your opinion, is the best TV series?
That's a tough one. I'd probably go with Suits, probably just because it's
Hmm.
been the one I've watched the most times. But I'd probably say only the first five or six series. After that, I thought it got after the fifth series, I thought it got quite poor. But yeah, Suits probably just because it's the one I've probably watched the most times.
Good shout. Oh, thanks for tuning in with us. Thanks so much, Tom, for coming on and yeah, giving us your insight and best of luck for the season after game week 1 anyway. We'll look once you get to the second week. Hope you beat Brentford and then crack on from there. But just have mercy on us this weekend.
Yeah. Hopefully your performance isn't as bad as the last game we had at Goodison Park.
I mean, I'll be surprised. I'd like to say it couldn't get any worse, but Everton surprised you in the worst possible way normally. So we'll see. But yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on, Dom, and to everyone watching on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. Give this video a like and subscribe for more content. Drop us your comments. Let us know your opinions. And until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in on the Toffee Blues.